So the target is like the various stages that the build will go through, right?
Will go exactly, right? So we have here, we have clean, we have restore, and then we have compile. The last time, quickly getting back to our slides, the last time we realized that when we create and we add code, we will package, right? And then we will publish. But as it stands now, those functionalities have not been represented here for the code that has been generated, right? So one of the things we will do today is to look at how to work inside this file, and then we'll make way for the next speaker. The next time, we'll continue to add more functionality to this to make it a more fleshed out and robust.
And is this asynchronous?
I'm confused. What does that mean?
I'm talking about the targets that we have, the clean, restore, compile. Like it's depends. Some of them are depending on one before they execute something.
Exactly. So because of how the build process is, they have to run in stages. So they don't run individually, or they don't run asynchronously, as you were asking. One has to finish completely before we go to the next. Make sense?
Mm.
All right, yeah. Great. So let's come back to the developer prompt. And if we want to execute anything here, we'll just run the same command we did earlier. I think my stuff is targeting another screen. Oh. Okay, great. So we run the same command we did earlier. We run Nuke. So if we run Nuke, it will look through our application. It will identify the Nuke library. It will identify our build.cs, and it will run our build.cs. So currently we see that the restore action has run, and then the compile action has also run. Let's get back to normal. So you can see, for some reason, what's it called? We didn't see clean in the list of things that run. I don't know if you saw that. So let me use that to quickly point to one of the functionalities within Nuke, is that you can actually chain your command. So let me say over here, our restore depends. It depends on our clean, right? So here we are saying that before we run restore, clean has to run. So I'll just quickly save this, and then we go back to our command prompt. And we run our Nuke command again. And let's see how different this looks now. So it starts and everything runs. And this time around, we see clean, restore, compile. And that is because we said that our restore command depends on our clean command, right? We can also do individual execution of each stage for, say, if we want to do something specific at that stage. So we can specify that, oh, we want to only run clean. And if we run the new command again, you should see that only clean has been able to run, right? Okay. Let's come back and minimize. So plenty talk, baby. How do we get this to work? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So how do we get this to work? Let's head over to the site and then look at some of the things indicated here. So we see here that there's GitHub Actions, we see deployment, we want something very basic to start with, right? So let's check through this. We check through installation, and we have set up our new build. We've seen this folder structure as explained here. And now we've looked at what they are calling the build execution. Seeing what they are calling their build execution. And so over here, you can be able to, please give me a sec. So over here, you can be able to see some additional commands. You've been able to specify other flags to the build pipeline to determine what should happen. All right, so there are a number of other commands which we can take our time to look at in the next session we will be having. We will go into a lot more detail. But now let's get a very basic example working real quick. All right, so if we start our build process, what do we want to do? First thing, for some people, or maybe for me, I want to be able to log. There should be a shorter command to do that. I want to be able to log that, oh, we have started executing our build, right? So if I save this, come here and run. Sorry, let's do it here instead. If I come here and I run the Nuke command again, we should see that log line appear right here. I don't know if you can see that. So while our clean was executing, we logged that we started executing our build, right? All right, great. Sorry. Okay, I'm out now. So we've logged our line. We want to start our build. What next do we do? Nuke has a number of abstractions that it uses to execute the functionality in the .NET environment. So that should give you a fair idea that you can use this for more than just .NET applications, right? So in a .NET environment, most of that is abstracted underneath the .NET tags class. So .NET tags should really should show you a number of things here. So we have .NET, .NET build, .NET clean, .NET format, .NET MS build. There are a number of functionalities available from this .NET tags class. So we want to clean our project. That's the first thing we want to do. So we specify .NET, we specify clean. So .NET clean, what are we trying to do? In .NET clean, what are we trying to achieve? Anyone? Oh, okay. So in .NET Clean, we are trying to, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you clean the project, you are trying to, if you have built the DLLs before, it's going to clean them so that you rebuild it again.
Great. So in here, we will specify the projects that we want to work with, right? So that is available up top for us. We want to build a solution. But our solution is not available here. If we look here, just like we are bringing our configuration here, we have our configuration here and we are bringing it inside here. We can also bring in a solution. So we do that by specifying that this is a solution. And then we say, just like we have the configuration up there, we say read only solution. I know that doesn't make too much sense now, but follow me along and it will make sense in a bit. So basically, when we looked at the parameters file, we saw that there's a key here that points to the location of our solution, right? And the infrastructure of Nuke encapsulates that and makes it available for us in this keyword. And it makes it possible for us to be able to make references to this. And then the infrastructure of Nuke will know where our solution exists. So as we've done this, we are going to quickly run this. So let me log again. So we log and say, finish executing our restore step, save. Before we do that, we want to do another one thing, right? No, okay, let's build this first and we'll introduce that later. So we execute our nuke command again. And this time around, we should see more than just our clean in the login area. So what does clean do? The clean goes through our project infrastructure and then it removes files from our build directory. It removes everything in there and makes sure that we don't have a reference to some files in there that we don't actually need. And this is a precursor to us actually executing our build step, is that we first clean our directory. So we clean our bin directories, if you see that here, and then we clean our debug directories. We get rid of everything in there to make sure our directory is clean for us to be able to carry on our build process. Executing our clean step. All right. So clean runs, we say clean should run before restore, and then we also say that restore should depend on clean. Once clean is done, okay, so this is giving me, once our clean is done, we want to execute our restore step. So the same thing, we call on the .NET class, and then we want to do our .NET restore, right? So .NET restore, same thing. We are going to specify the project file. We're going to set our project file. The same thing, we specify our solution as we have referenced up top. So we come to our command line. It's going to take some getting used to. Let's go. All right. All right, so we say Nuke again. And this time around, we should see more information. We see that it is determining the projects to restore. Behind the scenes, it is using the .NET exe and is calling restore on that. And it is specifying the location of our solution. I don't know if you can see that. Specifying the location of our solution, then it's determining the projects to restore, and it has successfully restored all of those projects. Okay, so I think my 30-minute mark is up, and I'll be ending my session here, but real quick, I want us to open our file explorer, right? And then do something here before we leave. If we look at our bin and objects folders, right? We'll select that real quick, and then we'll delete the two of them, right? I'll bring this to the side, then I'll run our nuke command again so that we can be able to see that the nuke library is actually taking the code we have written inside our nuke here to rebuild our project and making these files available to us. So what are the files not showing? Oh, my bad. Yeah, so let me quickly add the compile step. We're just doing a restore, right? So let's do this. .NET build, we set project file solution. And let me save that. And then we run the nuke command again. And if we run this time around, we should see that the restore command finished running, restored everything, and then the compile command started. And it was able to run through all of this. It's giving me a number of warnings, but those shouldn't be an issue. It will still build. So I have 2 warnings, 0 errors, and it groups the warnings and errors down here for me. But everything succeeded. And if we look through our files now, we should be able to see that our project files have been built for us nicely, and our library has been built here nicely with the files intact, and we can use these to share. So an overview for us will be that we have found a way to, for lack of a better word, automate our build process in code without having to go through the manual process of doing it. Where can something like this be useful? Something like this can be useful if, say, you want to learn how to write GitHub Actions, right? You can do this code and run it within GitHub Actions. If you want to learn how to run Azure pipelines, you can do this same code here, and then by some few configurations you do on this, an attribute on top of what we are doing already, and we can say we want to release this within GitHub Actions. We can specify a number of things in there. We can look at the a number of things. We can look at the image we want to run within. We can look at the image we want to run within that. Let me see if GitHub Actions image. We specify the image we want to run. So the image will be the virtual machine that will run our application, right? So we can choose between a number of the images that are available. We can say, we want Ubuntu latest. Convert. Oh, really? Okay, let me see if the order of these has been changed. So GitHub Actions, suspecting the name and then the image. Okay, all right, no problem. So we can specify the name of our step, let's say our compile step, and then we specify GitHub Actions image we want to run on Ubuntu latest, right? The number of things we can do in addition to this. Number of things we can do in addition to this. We can specify that, okay, if it's about to run, hey, can specify that if it's about to run, it should invoke the clean target first. Of course, we can specify that here as well. And then inside here, we say name of, then we specify the name of the step that we want to invoke. If we save this and we run Nuke, are you guys still with me? Or if we save this and we run the Nuke command, it's going to make a number of changes, interesting changes, and then we'll take a look at that. So here it says that one or more errors occurred for the GitHub Actions, the host GitHub Actions. So we need to the workflow must define either shorthand for all or on triggers. Oh, I see. Tuning the invoke actions take care of that. So our on trigger is that once we push this into GitHub, once our push is recorded, a new build should happen. There are a number of things we can do as well. We can also say that if it's a pull request, then our GitHub Actions should run. So this is doing a lot of heavy lifting here to make sure that we don't have to write our GitHub Actions by hand. Let's run our new command again. And hopefully this time around, we get this to work. Right now, it says that configurations for GitHub Actions have changed. Press any key to continue. So I enter. It starts the build. We can see the clean. That's the clean. And wait.
Waiting for him here. Initially, as I mentioned, please, we want to build this together. So if we're here and the little you can do is that maybe you push everything our social media platform when we post something. You always share this with people for them to also join the community. Yeah, so that will help. And on our GitHub organization, there is a lot coming on in there. So if you are here and then you are not part, it means that you have not registered, right? So when you registered, a link will be sent to you, and then you join the organization, and I mean, this meetup you are doing, the code, everything is going to be in there. So if you want to make reference to that and all that, there is a repo in there that contains all uh the meetups something. So you can use that. Oh, he's back. So let's continue. Yeah. Okay. So welcome. So
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Apparently,
Yeah.
my display driver just failed. If it makes any sense.
It's not easy.
Let me just quickly resume my Visual Studio. Oh God. My screen visible?
Yeah. It's cool.
It's Sam and
Back.
Frank. Sam and Frank
Yeah.
not ready yet.
So now I'm trying to reach out to Frank, and I think he's nowhere to be found or something like that. Send him so I don't know.
No, more time for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Let me demo the next part real quick. All right,
Someone
so
is.
let me see if our code has been preserved at least. Yeah, we have our code being preserved. All right, so I can rebuild solution. Someone is waiting, admit. All right. So are there any questions to this point? No questions? All right, so I'm going to, what's it called? I'm going to push this guy to what's it called? To GitHub, okay. So Accra.net .sample library. So let me call it sample. That's called library. Accra.net sample library, blah, 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 all the way. There's no need to make it private. So we are going to create and push this repo. Yeah, so push. So this should go. A new repository has been created. Open the repository window. Okay, cool. So we can check here and check GitHub. Blah, blah, blah. Sample library updated now. And add project files. I want to look at actions. So I don't know if you can see, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
If I go to actions, which is what GitHub Actions is, you see that my project is already failing. And so if I come in here, you see that the on push, Ubuntu latest has executed for 3 minutes and it failed. No, there are some people, Clifford admits there are some people trying to do it.
Yeah, I've admitted them, yeah.
So you can see that from the code we wrote here, it has generated a workflows file here. It has given us a compiled on the YAML, and it has found a way to summarize the code we wrote into these steps, and it specified the runner to look for a global.json, to look for a directory.packages.props, and to run our clean command, and it specifies the code here for it to execute. So I want you to look in here, come back. No, not here. Sorry, the actions tab, and to see that actually we got, what's it called? We got our script running and it just so happened to have failed. And the problem is that permission has been denied for some reason. So we can look through this to see often blah, 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 blah. Build.cmd permission denied. So let's look for a solution to this real quick. In Nuke build on Linux machines. I've blogged about specify, okay. Okay, so I guess I'll need to run this on the root of my project. Okay, let's go. So that should look like this. Okay, so and reset this. I have some changes here. Okay, let's see. Permissions, commit stage, and push. Let's see if that works for us. Permissions. Let's see what's up if it runs this time around. And no, it still fails. Oh man. So let me try the same update again. For the sh file. And then all right, let's stage this too. Permissions. Let's push this and see if this works this time around. Yay. Okay, so if you can still see my screen, I'm going to share the command I ran at the root. No, I think I should just share the document. So this document says, are you guys with me?
Yes, 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 we are
Yeah,
following.
so when you run a Nuke project and you initialize on Windows, it turns out that Windows doesn't give it the correct permissions it needs to run the shell files. So I did it for the build.cmd, it didn't work. So what worked for me was doing it for the build.sh, which is the actual bash file. So where is that command? So this right here is the command. For anybody who would want to try it. Oh, sorry. For anybody who would want to try or is following along, you can use this command. You run this command inside your repo to update the generated file and push, and you should have it working. So currently this is running, the post actions are running. Let me refresh and see if it's not already done. Okay, it's still running. Yeah, so from here we can see that our project has been pushed. We have the files we are looking for all appearing in here. Our build files are here. And we've been able to generate GitHub Actions automatically from that, which is currently running. The steps we specified in each of them have been executed. So we can see here that our clean runs successfully, our restore runs successfully. We saw these warnings as well in our local environment. And so summary is that we've been able to create our Nuke file. We use it to simulate our build process. And we've been able to use it in GitHub to build. Okay, the actions is completed now. We've been able to use it within GitHub to build a GitHub Actions file that has built our project, right? Successfully built our project. The next focus of our sessions will be, so apart from just building this project in GitHub, we want to also be able to, from GitHub, add a publish step, right? So we have cleaned, we have restored, we've compiled. We want our next step to be a publish step where we can be able to push it to either GitHub also has a NuGet directory now. So either GitHub's NuGet, or we can push to Azure's private NuGet, or even to nuget.org. We can obtain a key over there if we have an account and use that key to push there. So I'll be ending my session here today, and then, well, let me take questions, and then we can continue with our publish step the next time we meet. Hello.
Yeah, so is there any question? If you have a question or you have any suggestion, or if you think there is something that you want to ask, please you can ask right now.
Is it that everybody is confused, or they don't understand what it is? Or you can ask any question. Joe wants to ask a question. Okay, Charles, go ahead. It seems Joel is not speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I joined quite a bit late. I just want to ask the Nuke. I joined a bit late, but I did not see everything in action. I just to meet there whilst you were trying to pick the error. But then I just ask if you can share any details or document. I know Nuke will have documentation, but if you can share any links that would help a quick.
Okay, yes. So I have shared a number of links. Let me go to the Nuke build. So nuke.build is where you want to be going to. Oh, sorry. That's where you want to be going to. I'm sharing that in here. So you can, it's in the chat. You can check it out and read a lot more about it to see the number of things you can be able to achieve with it. You can do the very simple things as building your project to the mildly complex ones at releasing a NuGet package using your Azure Actions. And then you can do even more complex stuff such as creating project templates using a Nuke build, which is something hopefully in the future we'll explore how to create your own project templates and automate the process, how to have, say, a project templates group. Just like when you go to .NET New, you are able to do new class library, new API, new web projects. You can be able to automate all of those processes via Nuke. I hope your question has been answered, Charles.
Yeah, that's excellent. Sure.
Great. Is there any other question?
Again, the repo you used, sorry, coming in again. The repo you did, is it public that we can access for reference?
Yeah, it's public. It's right here. Accra.NET sample library. I can drop the link here as well. Accra.NET. And there's not much in it though, but this is just a repo and a repository around that to demonstrate the concept. It also contains the build folder, which has our build CS, where we did the specification of the GitHub Actions, and basically we have specified in code what otherwise our Visual Studio would have done, or otherwise a build server would have done for us. And it comes with the added advantage of being able to generate GitHub Actions scripts. And we can specify a number of actions behind the scenes that, oh, anytime you push the code, let it do this. Or anytime you push the code, or anytime we do a pull request, right? Then build or execute our GitHub Actions. So there are a number of ways we can be able to modify GitHub Actions to suit our purpose using Nuke. Hello, Philip.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah. Actually, I'm unable to see the chat, so all the links you are sharing, I don't have access to them. I don't know if we can share that on our WhatsApp platform so that.
Okay, yeah. So after the session, I'll do that on the WhatsApp platform. I'm going to share all of those links in there as well. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, and my next question, I think that's out of this scope, but I don't know if you can assist. So I realized that when you build a new service in .NET 8, which is worker service, and you want to install it on the Windows server or machine, uh, I'm having a bit of a challenge where I'm not getting the executable file generated. But if you use .NET 5 or behind, you are able to get the executable file to install.
Wait, come again. If you build a service project.
Yes. In .NET 8.
Yes.
And then you run the publish, it will generate some of the files for you to go and install the service as an Windows service. So in .NET, I realized that when you run the publish, it doesn't come with an executable file.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have any experience with that, so that you shed some light on that.
Yeah. So for the executable file, right? Only Windows uses the exe format, right?
Okay.
Linux does not use the exe, neither does macOS, right? So if you what's it called? If you target Linux, which is the default for .NET Core, it will not generate what's it called, an exe for you. However, yes. So, however, what are these things called?
Whatever I listen to doesn't have to be loud. You understand that? You have to make the thing so loud it has to enter my room. Your whatever, whoever.
So, hey, I've even lost my train of thought. So if you build your background service project, right?
Yes, please.
The number of as if deployment targets. Let me search for it. So background process net core target Windows. Create Windows service using background service. Let me see if I can find it here. It's in the way you deploy it. That's the only difference. It's the only difference. So you have to use extensions, extensions.hosting.windows service, right? And then when you come here to where you are targeting it, you have to, what's this? Implicitly using, no, this is not what I'm looking for. Okay, you create your service, blah, 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 blah. When you are deploying your service, yeah, so add hosted service, publish the app. Yeah, so when you are publishing, this is it. No, not the DLL. The platform target, you have to say Win64, right? That is the only time you can use the output type exe. So when you do that, it will generate the exe for you. I can share this link here in the chat. So Clifford will be sharing, he will be including those links with the other links later to share with everybody. I'm just sharing all of those as well. So hopefully, yeah, you are able to arrive at a solution. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other question? We have time more. We are supposed to close at 12, but because I was the only one who presented, so there's enough time for us to take questions.
Yeah, so but I think our next speaker is here. He has managed to join us.
Nice.
But yeah, he's here. Maybe you can give some kind of talk and all that. So you're welcome. Everything is late already, but if you can maybe have some little talk with us, because we have a few minutes to go. So Sir Frank, if you can hear me, if you can talk to us, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. So nice presentation. Once I was, taking a look at it in the background. So because of time, I just want to use the next probably few 20-25 minutes just to go over my presentation. So basically what I want to do is just take us through what building web applications on Microsoft Azure looks like whilst going through, the various cloud concepts and cloud service models that, Azure has. On the last meetup, I showed how we can build a web app using the .NET SDK and publish it on Azure. So this would be like a quick follow-up to that. Let me know if you see my presentation.
Yeah, your screen is visible now.
Yeah, it's good now. So
okay, moderator. Thanks. All right, so building web applications on Azure. We already saw how we did that. Was it last month?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a web application developer, there are a few things you need to know, right? Especially going on to Azure, which is a cloud computing platform by Microsoft. Next slide. Yeah. So I'm sure as a developer, you understand what cloud computing is. If you don't, basically cloud computing is delivering computer services like server, storage, databases, networking software, analytics. You can even add AI over the internet. So as a developer, if you want to build your web application, you don't need to go and buy a physical server and buy some hard drives and all that. With cloud computing, you can, innovate faster. It's flexible. You save much on cost. We'll see that as we go along. So basically, when you talk about cloud computing, you are talking about delivering all these services over the internet. So Azure basically is Microsoft's cloud computing service, right? My Nigerian friends will say Azure, right? Some people say Azure. So it's Microsoft Cloud Computing Service, no matter how you call it. I think the original word is Spanish, which is like, I think the color of blue. Yeah. So what are the benefits of cloud computing? We've mentioned cost, speed. So cost, basically, you don't have to buy physical servers. So you just log on to microsoftazure.com and you are able to provision, services for your web application. It's fast, right? Because it's the resources are on demand, right? So as soon as you need a web server, you can go into Azure and quickly spin up a web server. You don't need to travel to a vendor, buy physically, and they have to transport it to you and all that. So it's very fast and it's also flexible to use. Global scale, as a developer, you can provision your resources anywhere you want to provision, whichever region. Microsoft has a number of data centers around the globe you can get access to. So that's an advantage. Productivity. So you maximize your time in terms of, when it comes to wasting time, moving, dealing with vendors, and anything else that comes to, managing on-prem services is all taken out. So you can focus on your goal or your idea if you're a developer and build, let's say, a SaaS product. Performance, because of the global scale network, the performance is very assured. Reliability, you have services, the disaster recovery, and all those services available on the cloud if you need to do any of those. So this is the cloud service model. Basically, we being web developers or as a web developer, we talked about, you can either use the on-prem by building your own servers and or having your own data center, right? But the cloud service model sort of compares, three different service models against the on-prem. So we have what we call the infrastructure as a service, IaaS. We have the platform as a service, which is the PaaS, and the software as a service. So basically, this model shows who is responsible for what when you deploy, let's say, your web application to the cloud, right? If you use the IaaS, right? So if you look at the bottom here, This color shows that Microsoft is responsible. This is the customer is responsible. And this shows a shared responsibility, right? So when you go to infrastructure as a service, you are responsible for information and data, your devices, and what accounts and identities, right? Then there's a shared responsibility over here. No, sorry. When you are talking about infrastructure service, so you are so responsible as a customer for your applications, your network, your operating system, right? So as you can see, all this blue color is what the customer is responsible for. If you are an on-prem, it means you are responsible for all these things, right? Because you have to manage your own physical data center, your physical network, your host, operating system, and all that, right? But infrastructure as a service, you're only responsible to the point of hardware. So if you see physical hosts, you are not responsible for that. Microsoft is responsible, physical network, physical data center, right? So operating system, you are responsible for that. Network controls, you are. Now, platform as a service, this is where we developers or web developers are much interested in, because over here, all we are doing is we are bringing our data and our application, and we are bringing in just our data, and Microsoft is responsible for everything else, which is the operating system, the physical host, network, and data center. And there are some shared responsibilities here. We'll see when we go along, which is between applications and network control, right? So when you create an app service, for example, you could choose to still, make some, well, let's say firewall configurations and stuff like that. So we'll see that to go along. So these are the various service models. So infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Now, when you want to host an application on Microsoft Azure, there are some services that you can take or you can use. There we have virtual machines. With virtual machines, what it means is that when you are building your application, you have to go and provision a virtual machine, install the operating system of your choice, set up your web server, set up your database, everything on the virtual machine. So that's an infrastructure as a service, because you are managing the operating system, and there are other things that comes with it, as we saw over here. So it's an as, but there are other platform as a service flavors you can choose. There's Azure App Service, there's Azure Container Apps, there's Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure Static Websites, right? These allow you to just quickly push your application to the cloud, and you don't have to worry about the rest, right? That's why it's platform as a service. You don't need to worry about the rest, and the other services there are all managed by Microsoft. I want us to quickly understand what we call an SLA, because we've talked about responsibilities, right? Microsoft is saying that, okay, so if you deploy certain services, I am responsible for a certain, if there is an outage, depending on what service you deployed, the SLA or service level agreement covers, you to an extent. So an Azure SLA basically is a formal contract between Microsoft and customers that defines the performance standards Microsoft commits for using the various Azure services, right? These agreements always specify an expected uptime and connectivity for each service, right? Alongside the remedies or compensations if these standards are not met. Okay, so that's what an SLA is. So as a web developer, before you go into the cloud to provision any service, you need to understand how it affects, you in terms of uptime, and what the vendor, in this case, which is Microsoft, is giving you in terms of, the contract that's backing both of you, right? So let's look at some of them. So for an Azure virtual machine, which is an infrastructure as a service, the SLA percentage is 99.5. right, for VMs in an availability set or use an availability zone. So when you create a VM, you can choose to create another replicated zone. So you can say, put me in data center A and data center B. So in case one goes off, you are automatically put, the other data center kicks off automatically, right? So this is for a VM. Now, Microsoft is saying 99.9% for a single instance VM with premium SSD or ultra disk. So if you have a VM, a single instance VM that is using a premium SSD and ultra disk, right, your SLA percentage goes up to 99.9. So Microsoft is saying 99.9% of the time, I'm guaranteeing you an uptime, right? So you need to understand these things before you pick the service you want or before you configure your architecture for your web application. There's also an Azure App Service, right, which is not a virtual machine. You go in and you just push your code and your app is live. I think we saw that last month. You can refer to, the last month's video. We quickly created a web app and we pushed it. If there's time, I'll see if I can do that again. So there's a platform as a service, and Microsoft is giving you 99.95 for all app service plans, right? We have Azure Container Apps. So you realize that this is 99.95, right? So the little percentage of is you probably have some downtimes, right? But you realize that when you are using a VM, if you do not use an availability set or an availability zone, this 99.95% is going to drop, right? So for all the platform as a service, you realize that they have very high availability, right? So if you look at Kubernetes service also, they are saying 99.95 if you use availability zone and 99.9 for if you are not using an availability zone. Same for Azure static websites. So all these are ways by which you can deploy a web application in Azure, but you need to know how to architect it and know which one to go for, right? I personally prefer platform as a service because I don't need to deal with operating system and managing underlying VMs. Okay, so there's DevOps on Azure. As a web developer, you might want to perform some DevOps services, right? Azure DevOps is a software as a service by Microsoft that allows developers, to support the entire development lifecycle. So from planning, coding, building, testing, and deploying CI/CD pipelines, right? DevOps also allows you to connect to GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab, right? So there is a service on Azure called Azure DevOps. We'll look at that probably in another meetup as a specific topic. So we've looked at platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. So Azure DevOps is a software as a service. Okay, so let's look at some of the developer stack supported on Microsoft Azure for web developers. So programming languages and frameworks, .NET and .NET Core. We saw that on the last meetup. You can also do Java, Node.js, PHP, Python. Ruby currently is not supported default, but I mean you can go in and configure your own VM, to support Ruby on Rails. For front-end frameworks, Angular is supported, React, Vue.js, Blazor. So Microsoft Azure is actually cloud for all. It's not only for the .NET stack, right? That's what we are trying to prove over here. You can use it for your Angular apps, your React app, or your Vue.js or Blazor, whichever one. Okay, any questions to this point? I don't know if there's enough time to get into a quick demo, but let me take questions to this point. So basically, as a web developer, I just want you to understand what, cloud computing is and know the various service models we have in cloud computing, the benefits of using the cloud, the various cloud service models we have, and also the kind of services you can host, your application on as a developer. So any questions? I'll quickly probably just log into the Azure portal for you to see how, this plays out. Any question? Azure.com. Any question? Okay. All right. So let me quickly move on. How many of us were on the call last month? Or let me see, how many of us were not on the call last month? Okay, I think the video is there, so I might not have to repeat. But basically, this is Microsoft Azure. How many of us know what Microsoft Azure is? Okay, Charles, you're on the call. So this is Microsoft Azure. We said Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform, right, for Microsoft, from Microsoft. So to use the Microsoft Azure services to host a web application, you need to have an account. Okay, so I have an account, so I can log into my account. So as a developer, what you want to do is usually you would use an IDE, right, for your development. So I prefer Visual Studio Code, for this demo. So this the Microsoft Azure portal, right? We mentioned virtual machines. You can create a virtual machine. So if you want to build your Node.js app, you can come in, create an Ubuntu virtual machine, configure Nginx and whatever it is you want, right? And create your web application. Let me quickly just show you. So when you do this, you are deploying your solution using the infrastructure as a service model, right? Which means that you will be responsible for certain things, right? And we saw that some of the things you'll be responsible for is what? Your operating system, okay? So in Azure, you first click a subscription. So you need a subscription to use Azure. Microsoft gives you $200 free for the for the first time you subscribe. You have $200 free. So after this meetup, you can go and create the account. $200, you get access to a subscription. Then you create what we call resource groups, right? Resource groups allows you to group your solutions in a logical container. So let's say we want to create a VM, create a database, create a couple of services. You can group all in one resource groups. It allows you to manage, your assets well. It also allows you to be able to grant permissions to a group of resources, to various users. So that's the advantage of resource group. So you give your virtual machine a name, you can select a region. We said Microsoft has so many regions. You can select the region that you want to put your solution in. Then you come in, we mentioned availability zone. So you can set your availability zone
Hello,
in
sir.
some data centers. Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Please, I think your screen is not showing. So if you can check that one, yeah. So since you started with Azure, I think it's not
Okay.
showing. So yeah.
Okay. Let me present it again. Let me know if you see it.
It's here to come. It's here to come. So can anyone see it right now? It's not available on my side though, but
No,
still,
it's
right?
not. I think it. Yeah, that's why
It's
I've
still
been
not
leaving.
showing. Oh,
I thought I was the only one.
okay.
Yeah, I
That's
noticed that.
interesting. Let me share again. Let me just stop and share again.
Mm.
And if you see, let me know.
It's not coming through,
It's
but
not something on my network.
yeah.
But initially, when I was sharing the slide, you could see the slide, right?
Yeah, it was clear. It was clear.
Okay. Do I drop off and join again? Because I don't know why. It looks like the socket is not connecting at all for this. Let me try again. Stop sharing. Share. Okay, let's see if it improves. It's still not showing.
Yeah. Yeah. So still not showing.
That's interesting. So what changed? Okay. Let me see if I can drop off and drop back in once in a while. Probably Teams has time. Let me.
Okay. That I think that one will help, and we will be able to see. Yeah.
Okay. Is it showing now?
Yeah.
You can see the
showing now. Yeah, we can see now.
Okay. So this creating a virtual machine. So I said to host your web application, you can go the infrastructure as a service approach, right? And by that, you can create your own virtual machine and decide to manage your operating systems and everything, right? So in doing that, you look for virtual machines. You just search in Azure, you find virtual machines, then it brings you over here. So just to show you why this is infrastructure as a service, you're able to configure things like your availability zone, right? So you can select whether you want no infrastructure redundancy. What it means is that if this virtual machine goes off, that is it, right? But I can set an availability zone, which means physically separate your resources within two Azure regions, right? So if I say availability zone, it's going to give me this option. So in this Azure region that I've selected, Central US, there are 3 zones. So what it means that I can choose to put my solution in all the 3 zones. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So what this means is that Microsoft is going to provision my web application on my VM in 3 zones. So if zone 1 goes off, automatically my application will still be running in zone 2. If zone 2 goes off, it will still be on zone 3. And these are separate data centers, right? But in the same region. So what it means is that it's in the same region. So if this data center goes off, this one can still be on because they don't share the same, maybe power supply and etc. All right. So we also see that in creating a VM virtual machine, what do? You can select the operating system that you want, right? Because we saw in the service model for infrastructure as a service that what you manage the operating system. So you can select whichever operating system, right? And once you set it up, so if it was a node solution, you would have maybe used an Ubuntu server. Then once it's finished provision, you log in and you go and install your Nginx, do all your port forwarding and everything, and you push your application to the web service directory, and your app is up, right? So this is the infrastructure as service approach using a virtual machine. But we can go with the platform as a service approach where we can use either static web apps, as app services, right? And app service, container service, etc. Now, the only difference with this is that these are platform as a service. So if I go to, before that, you realize, I look at this, I can manage my disks, right? Remember in the SLA, they said if you select a premium SSD, then your SLA would be what? Higher, 99.5. So you can see this, you can set premium SSD. You manage all these things using the platform as a service. So I can choose premium, standard, or whatever. And I can also choose to replicate my SSD. So I can say that my SSD should be replicated in such a way that it is either local redundant storage, or if I want higher availability, I can choose, to make it what? To set redundancy. So what it means that if something happens and this particular SSD goes off, the data center has replicated another one. So it automatically what kicking. So in using virtual machines, you configure so many things, right? But when we go to an app service, let me go to an app service. Let's see how creating an app service looks like. So creating an app service, you can either create a web app, a static web app, or a web app with database, or you can also do WordPress, right? So you can create a WordPress site on Microsoft Azure. Let's look at a web app quickly. Moderator, please ping me if we are far behind time spent.
Yeah, so I think the screen is also giving us another challenge again. I think people are not seeing it. It's not moving. So what we have right now here is creating the virtual machine. So the virtual machine where you have to select the VM architect and all that. That is what is showing right now. Yeah, the Ubuntu section. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I just moved to create web app. I don't know if you see that now.
No. We are seeing Ubuntu server. I mean, something like that.
Okay, then it means it's delayed. Okay, no problem. Let me not. I don't know why it's behaving that way. Maybe it's my internet, but I can hear you guys clearly too. You can also hear me. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Let me try for the last time. Do you see it now? What do you see? Do you see create web app?
No. It's basically empty. I mean, dark or something like that. I don't know if anyone can see from their side, or can you guys see? Can someone see the screen right now?
No, it's just like the other one. It's now its name. That's its initials.
Yeah. We are waiting for him. Please, a link will be sent to you guys containing the slides and everything, So don't worry. I'll be sending that one through your email and also on the WhatsApp platform. So don't worry. If you have a question after the event, you can also reach out to the speakers and ask that one too. And you can also ask that one on the WhatsApp platform.
Okay.
And then they will say, yeah, it's cool now.
I'm trying to share again. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
What do you see now? Okay.
We can see
cool.
the team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Create web app is yeah.
Web app. Okay. So this is web app. Let me open the virtual machine in another tab. So I'm just trying to show you the difference between using a VM and using a web app service. So we said that using the VM is what using the VM is infrastructure as a service, right? So with infrastructure as a service, they are, if you remember the slide, you manage everything from operating system, networking, application. You manage everything over here, right? And Microsoft just takes care of the host. So you realize that when we are setting it up, we'll be setting up some of these things because you are allowed to create your own virtual machine and manage it. But with the app service, you don't have access to the underlying virtual machine, right? That's why it's a platform as a service. So as a developer, when you're creating an app service, all you're caring about is you create your app service and you just, push your code. So let's look at the app service. If you are creating an app service, you can select your runtime stack, right? So you can select either .NET, you can select Java, Node, PHP, and Python, right? So all this is supported by the app service. So if you wanted to create a Node app, you just come and select Node.js. If you're a Java developer, you use any of the Java, runtimes. If it's .NET, you can select any of the .NET. Then you select the regions that you want to place your app service in. Okay, so let's say if I wanted to create an app service, let's call this Azure Meetup app service. It has to be global unique because at the end of the day, it's going to give you a URL that you can, browse this application. So how are you going to publish it? Do you want to publish it code, container, or static web apps? Microsoft Azure supports container and Docker, right? So you can use that, but I'll just leave it at code. Select a region. You can select a region that you want to place your what's it called, project in. The reason why I'm having operating system here is because .NET, you can choose to use a Linux or a Windows operating system, right? So if you want Linux, you can just choose Linux. If you want Windows, you can just choose Windows. But you're not going to have access to manage the operating system itself because you don't even have access to the virtual machine when you use an app service, right? Then you can select a region. The region is not popping up. I hope my internet is not lagging. Can you see where I am at this point?
Yes.
At the region?
Yes.
Okay. But the regions is not showing. Okay. Anyway, it's supposed to populate. So you can select a region just like we did for the virtual machine. When you're creating a virtual machine, you can also select a region. What is happening? Okay. So you realize that once you create an app service, all you need to do is just push your code, right? And there's something also called a pricing plan, right? Microsoft usually has a free tier. I've exhausted my free tier, so that's why it doesn't show. But you always have a free tier that you can use. If not, you can go to, it's probably just not loaded. Let me refresh this and see. Give me a second. So the difference between using a platform as a service is with that one as a developer, all you are concerned about is just pushing your code and you have your application live, right? But with a VM, you have to go and create a virtual machine and configure it for your application, right? So that's like the major difference between these two services. Is my screen moving now, or is this frozen?
Yeah. It's moving.
It's moving. Okay, so let's try and create it again. Azure demo app. Let me add 233. It has to be globally unique. So if you don't make it globally unique, this won't take because I need to give me a URL. You combine and give me a URL. So runtime stack, I'll say .NET. Why is pardon? Someone is saying something. Why are my regions not loaded?
Charles, do you have a question or you want to say something?
I think I see why the region was not loading. I was using the wrong subscription. One of my subscriptions is disabled. I was using a disabled subscription. Good. So now the regions is here. So I have a number of subscriptions. We said that when you purchase Azure, you have access to subscription. I have 2 disabled one. That's why I wasn't coming. But this subscription has it has some it's active. So now I can select my region. So over here you can select the region. So Germany, East, Israel, Korea, wherever you want to place your web application in. You select it, and once you select it, you can move to creating your web application, right? So if I go to next, it can ask me if I want to create a database. I don't want that yet. Deployment, continuous deployment. Remember we talked about Azure DevOps or GitHub. If you want to set up CI/CD, you can quickly set up CI/CD here. Then the only network configuration you have over here, as you can see, enable public access or not, enable network injection. So I'll leave this at default and I'll just create the web app. So in just a minute, you can just go in, create a web app, select whichever region you want to place it in. So currently it's creating the web app. As soon as it creates the web app is going to be live. And the link I clicked on. So over here, it's saying that my web app is standard S1. My estimated price is this, right? A month. In another meetup, I'll show you how to reconfigure this. If you want to reconfigure the web app and use probably maybe other tiers, you can do that. So after doing this, it shows you a summary of everything. So my memory is 1.7 gig, size small. This is my app service plan. Windows operating system, US, East US. It's a standard SKU. Application insights is for monitoring, right? It's enable if you want to monitor your web application, you want to set logs and watch it in real life, watch it live. You can use what we call application insights. So you can either enable or disable it, right? If you want to see requests coming to your web application from where you want to log errors, it helps you do that. Then you can set up authentication. So this is not enabled. Continuous deployment tool is also not enabled. I'll just create it quickly. So the difference is this, as soon as I create it, all I have access to is an app service, right? I don't have access to the VM itself. But when you create a virtual machine, you have access to the virtual machine itself. You can log in as if it's a Windows machine, you log into the Windows interface and you can probably set up your IIS web server, or if it's Ubuntu, you can log in via shell and do your own stuff. Okay, so this is going to create, whilst it's creating, any questions to this point? So today my goal is just to show you the various cloud service models as a web developer and some of the services you can use to deploy a web application. There's also container apps, right? Container apps is if you want to do, you want to build application that scale, right? It uses Kubernetes, but a lot of things are managed for you behind the scenes. So if you want to build apps that really scale using containerized solution, you can use the Azure Container Apps. Okay. So it says our web app is deployed. Let's go to resource and look at it. So we have our app service. Now, this is the URL to access the app service, right? Microsoft gives you a default URL. If you click on this, this will open your app. So this is our app service. Right. So and this is a URL. So later on, once you have this created, you can push your code. So if it's a web application, whether it's Node, Java, or whatever it is, you can push it to the app service. You can stop an app service, you can restart it, you can delete, you can download a publishing profile. If you're using Visual Studio, you can, okay, there's no enable, so you can't do this. You can also reset your publishing profile, right? Now, you can, when we come to, because we enabled application insights, you can do monitoring on your app service. Deployment slots allow you to move from various environments and do swapping, right? So if you have two environments and you want to, let's say, swap out and all that, you can use deployments. There are so many things you can check on your app service. You can do load testing, right? You can also configure backup for your app service. This is the application insight we enabled to allow monitoring. You can configure a custom domain. Currently, we are using the Microsoft domain, default domain, but you can configure your own custom domain if you want to, right? So there are so many configurations you have on your app service. There's also something called scale up and scale out. Remember, we said that one advantage of the cloud was scalability. So if you click scale up, you can always come and reconfigure the resources that your app service is using. Okay, so if I come here, I can see the CPU. So this is the F tier, the free tier I was talking about. You can use this for development, just for testing. You don't pay. But there are other tiers. So there's B1, it shows you the number of CPUs, the memory, and all that. So you can always come in, and also the cost. The initial one I selected was, I think, standard. They said it was 70 something. I can scale down to this, right? So that's the beauty of scalability in the cloud. As soon as I say I want to switch to D1, I know I'm going to spend only 9 USD a month. Currently, my cost is 75 USD. So I can select this and I can what, downgrade. Imagine if this was a physical server, and let's say you want to upgrade. Okay, I need to turn always on off. But basically, you can always upgrade or downgrade, right? So if this was a physical server, what I'll need to do if I wanted to upgrade was I would have to go to the market and go and buy some drives, or I'll have to update my server hardware. But the advantage we saw in the slides about cloud computing is you can easily scale in a matter of seconds, right? So scale up is you want to add more resources to your app service by increasing RAM, storage, or whatever it is. And we have scale out. So scale out is what? Adding more instances. So if you want your app service to work in a way that you have multiple instances running at the same time, it's going to be load balanced behind the scenes for you. So you can do, so currently I have only one instance running. My maximum scale instance is 10, right? So I can come and choose to increase the number of instances I have for my app service by just pushing the slider. Or I can set rule-based scale out, right? Rule-based scale out, usually you can define what happens before, the instances should increase, right? So let me just put that manual. So this is manual scaling. So if I say I want 2 instances, I'll do this. So what it means is that at each point, there's going to be 2 instances of my app service running. So if anything happens and let's say one knocks out or there's a lot of load on one, the other app service is going to kick in. So that's where you can do scale up and scale out. So there's advantage of using cloud computing services, right? You can easily do this and without having to you know, without having to create a lot of, or purchase hardware services and all that physically. So that's how you create an app service. And once you create an app service, you can connect to your app service using Visual Studio Code, right? So let me quickly do that. That's the last thing I'll do when we can close. Any questions to this point? I hope my screen is moving fine.
Yes, it's moving.
Okay. So let's quickly connect to the app service that we created, right? So let's go and create let's quickly create a .NET app and let's publish it to our app service. Where is my CMD? So I want to create a new application quickly, and we just push it to the cloud. I already have .NET SDK installed. To be able to, to be able to connect to your app service, you need to have the .NET. To be able to create a new app in Azure in .NET, you need to have the SDK installed, right? If you are new to .NET, and just for you to know. So I have that installed already. So I have 8.4 installed. So I'll create a new web app quickly. .NET new web app. I want to put it in a folder. So I'll use the output. Oops. So let's put in a folder called hello web app. And I want this application to have login and register feature by default. So I'll say authentication individual. What did I miss? It's not a valid option. Okay, so my output, I think, is just one. Okay, so it's quickly creating an application for me. It's going to using .NET web app. So this will be an ASP.NET core web app, right? You can see it here. So I'm going to open this project. We called it what? Hello web app. So I'm going to my directory, cd hello web app. Then let's open it in Visual Studio Code. So I'll use the command code dots. So this has opened the web app we just created, right? So this is the default web app. Let's run it and see. So .NET run. It's going to run this web app quickly to first build, restore, and run. So whilst it's doing that, if you want to quickly connect to Azure, you need to download the Microsoft Azure extension. I have it already downloaded. So it allows me to connect to Azure without having to go to the portal. So once it connects, I can see all my resources here, right? Okay, so my application is running now, localhost port 5177, right? Let's go there and see our application. So this is our application, right? We just quickly created with some few commands. It has a register feature already built for me. So I can come and register. Let's see if it works. Okay, it works. So because it's a sample application, you need to click here to confirm the email account, right? But if it's in real world, you build your own, email confirmation where it sends to an email address and blah blah. But this is a demo template, so I'll log in now. When I click login, you realize I'm okay. So now let's push this code to our app service. Now, because I'm using the Azure extension, I can quickly come here. This is my subscription. It's called the CSP subscription. So it loads all the subscriptions I have in my account. So once it loads, I can click on this. Do we see our app service over here? Azure Demo App 233. That's what I created, right? Do you remember? I can deploy.
Could you
So
show?
if you
Sorry,
go
could
to
you
the
show
apps,
the extension?
okay, so this is the extension. So to use extensions, you come to the Visual Studio Extension Marketplace, right? And you just type Azure. Then you click on Azure Tools. So this is the Azure Tools extension. It gives you access to connect to app services, Azure Static Web Apps, Azure Functions, Azure Storage, Azure Databases, Azure Virtual Machines. So as a developer, this is like your friendly go-to tool because you can do everything in Azure, using this Azure tools, right? So that's it. So I've installed it already. If you've not installed it, you need to click the install. So that's the extension. So when you install it, it's going to show over here the Azure logo, right? And it's going to show you all your resources, your workspaces, right? So when I'm clicking this, my subscription. So this is the app service we created in the Azure portal. So now we are going to deploy our code over here. Currently, when you go to the app, what do you see? We see the Microsoft default app service page, which is, what's the name of ours? Azure. What was our URL? Okay, there's it. So when you go to this link actually is live. Let me drop it in the chat. Where's the chat? Where's the chat? Okay. Let me drop it here. So this link is live. So we are going to deploy this application. As you can see, this application is running localhost. So we are going to deploy this application, our Hello World web app, to our Azure App Service using the Visual Studio Connector. But down the last meetup, what we did was we created everything here. By this time, we went to the portal first, and we are going to deploy this. So I'll right-click this, and I'll click Deploy to Web App. Because I'm already in the source code, the Azure extension knows that, okay, I probably want to deploy this. So I'll click Deploy to Web App. And let's see what it does next. So it asks me, do you want to deploy this, your application? Because it's seen that I'm in this project. I'll click on it. Let's click on this add configuration. Okay. So let's see what it does next. Say, are you sure you want to deploy to Azure blah 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 233 demo app 233? This will overwrite any previous deployment and cannot be undone. I'll say deploy. So deploy anyway. Yeah. Azure that's popping up. Project file does not exist. Hello web app.cs branch. Oh, this is new app. So new app. New app. Okay. It looks like it worked this time. So we have a publish folder now. So let's try this again. Which one should we deploy to? Let me use the last one. Okay, what's the error again? Oh, Why is it publishing Hello Web App? Oh, which project is this? I'm in the wrong project. In the wrong project. Okay, since we have the release now, I think after this loads, you should be able to publish. Hopefully. So probably next time we'll look at the container apps service, and we'll use a Dockerized solution. Then we'll also look at static web apps. So static web apps is good for applications that are just client-side rendering, or applications that don't need server-side rendering. So if you have some Angular front-end app or you want to use React, you can quickly build a static web app, and you can make use of Azure functions. Deploy to web app. You can make use of Azure functions. So instead of building like a native server backend, right, you just create a static web app that uses Azure functions. So we can look at that too another time. If it doesn't work, then SDK. Error side. Thanks or any contribution. Whether you want to go with a platform as a service.
Yeah,
It was
so
backing up Zets, right? But Clifford, are you saying something?
yeah, I was saying that your network was like, I think it was missing up or something like that, but it's cool now. Yeah.
It's cool now. Okay. Yeah, so I was talking, I think this will deploy. I was talking about the decision between going for platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. It depends, on what you want to do, but it's better sometimes to go for platform as a service because you don't manage so many things. Okay, deployments was successful. And I'm just giving a scenario of somebody we were dealing with somewhere last month who is using an infrastructure as a service. So what it means is that they have created their own. They've created their own. So the application is live now. So they've created their own VM. They've installed a database on it, and they are managing their own backup by using a backup script, right? And what happened to them was that somebody made a mistake and seeded into their var folder, and one of their engineers, and ran a delete command. So they lost a lot of gigabytes of MySQL files, data files, right? So we had to help them do a recovery. And when we finished, I was asking them why they are using an infrastructure as a service, because if they move to a platform as a service, they could easily take, advantage of some backup services and some redundancies and all that. And they don't need to be manually writing their own backup scripts, right? So even for your database, you can choose whether you want to, create your own database server on a VM and manage it, or you want to go with an Azure database service, right? Azure has a database service, where you can just, go in and just look for a database and just quickly start using it and just set up backups with just some click of, a button. Okay, so basically this our web app deployed as an Azure web app. So probably next time we'll look at how to maybe do something with static web apps and also a Dockerized solution using container web apps. And they all have their advantages depending on what you want to do. Okay, any questions to this point? I think we've spent a lot of time. I mean, thanks for the help. Those who were giving me those commands to run. Any question, any contribution? Moderator, I think I'm done.
Yeah. So
Unless we
thank
have
you, sir, for
anything else.
yeah. So I think there is no question at this point. I think sorry guys, we have spent a lot of time, I think additional 1 hour. Yeah, so sorry, sometimes the internet connection and technical issue normally comes up. So thank you guys, thank you everyone for joining today. So what we are going to do is that the video will be available to you guys. I'll share it around, and also all the links will be available on our GitHub organization. So all the repo will be available, and I'll share it with you all. So thank you for supporting the community. So, we see you next month, and you can share this with others. So share the community with others for them to also join. And in case of anything, repost or the post on social media to reach a lot of people. Right? So we see you next. Okay. So you can go ahead.
I quickly want to just add that I mean the internet issue and the connectivity and all that. I mean, we used to have physical meetups, right? So what we are doing is we are just trying to see if we can, still get the numbers. Then we might also, go back to having physical meetups. We usually, we used to have a lot of physical meetups where all the devs we come, and we are also open to present, right? It's not a one-man show. We are doing this because we want to engage the community, and also as time goes on, we can have all of you contributing. I could see from the contribution that most of you, know some of these stuff. So it's not a one-man show. Anytime we put out a request for speaker, always make sure that, if you have some time, you can join and come and share your knowledge with the community. Yeah, so that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
sir.
John.
So, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, hi, Wise, hi, Frank, hi, everyone.
Hey, hi.
I actually wanted to ask about in-person meetups, but I think Frank has addressed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
before COVID, we used to do a lot. I think we even did one. Was it last year, last quarter? We did one at Kofi Annan,
Yeah.
and I mean, for us, it's just all about the engagement, right? I know we are all busy, we are all working this, but I mean, if you are passionate about the technology, we just want to spend some small time, meet together as developers. Somebody can just show, okay, what he knows, or probably you are doing something new you want to share. You can just come and share with us. And we always organize very nice meetups. We usually have people sponsor refreshment and all that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the patronage. So we are just trying the virtual meetups to see whether the idea is to see if we can get the numbers. And I mean, once we see the participation, then we can, move for the in-person. But we can do a poll. If people prefer the in-person ASAP, we can always organize the in-person anytime if we want to. But the thing is, once we organize, I mean, we need to have the patronage. If not, we'll just, record from home. Yeah.
Yeah, we can also, just off the top of my head, we can also do make the in-persons quarterly and then make the online ones every last Saturday like we do. I think
Yeah, that won't be bad. At least just have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you found our sessions useful.
Yeah. So yeah, we see you next month. If you have a question or any suggestion or contribution, you can always reach out, and then you can add it, and then it will be very helpful. So next month, you see
If
you
you want
guys
to
around.
present, to please contact Isaiah if you want to present for the next meetups. We always want new speakers, right? It shouldn't be, as I said, it's not a one-man show. So we need to see at least new speakers on every subsequent meetup. We are holding a mantle or the fort now because there aren't any volunteers coming up. So if you want to speak, just contact Isaiah, and the next meet you can put in your topic, and yes, we're good to go.
Yeah, so I'm volunteering John for our next meetup. John will very likely be speaking at our next meetup.
Okay, so yeah.
All right. See you guys.
So I'll see you next month. Yeah. Thank you all for joining. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Stuff. I have to end the meeting like this.